Hello and welcome to my Bushiroad Spring Fest deck profile for V Premium format over in Belgium, Antwerp in 2022. So this is the first Spring Fest since the pandemic. Well, we're still in the pandemic, but we've got the events again. And I've entered with Astral Poets, my favorite deck in V Premium, or previously known as Standard before the pandemic took place. So for the starter, we play like any V Series starter. Well, that's all there is in this format anyway. But then we have 4 copies of Valkyrian because, yes, you can now search for it, but I'd rather have 4 because you can hard draw into it as well. And it doesn't cost a counterblast, nor does it mean expending a perfect guard from your hand. So it's good to be able to hard draw these. Also, Valkyrianing into a Valkyrian is good because you have 5 drive checks. So a 4 off here. Then we play 4 copies of Origin Deity of Heavenly Light Uranus, the main ride of the deck. This is the card that does your main pressure, so you can have 2 Valkyrian swings, as well as the Vanguard swing, and other rear guards that you may place. I've also got these cards here from the event, so I've got 2 of these Springfest hot stamps, which I'm going to upgrade these with soon, so I should have a few of these available for trade. And I need to just get 2 more of these, that way I keep this deck completely true max rarity. And by true max rarity, that includes event promos as well. If anyone ends up with a few of these, just let me know. Or 1 copy. I'll ask even if you have 1. I've got here 3 copies of Astral Dragon. This is the BCS World Finals hot stamp. I've actually got a 4th copy as well, but for this deck profile, I downed it to 3 copies. The reason why is because of certain changes I've had to make, which I'll get to later. But I was playing 4 of this previously. So this is the kind of main reason why I was trying to collect these as well, because it would feel complete if I had these as well to go alongside this. And this is also like a backup ride. Some people have cut it, but some of the topping lists that you do see actually do still play it, funny enough. I've always been on the boat since day 1 of play this card. Like ever since they revealed Eos Anesis Dragon, I've always still wanted to play this. I thought, you know what, just play more Astral Poets, because some of the cards, the way they work is that they are demanding. They do want you to play more Astral Poets, because otherwise you're not going to be able to rest 2 quite as easily to use this card, nor are you going to be able to perfect guard with Eos Anesis at the same time. Plus, it's also a target for when you go into your new ride line, Bakrooks and Arcturus. So being able to reveal Astrals is good for that. Also, Decay of Just Path finds more targets to hit, which is good, so you can get your force markers for free without actually losing hand either by wasting your search. So there's a lot of reasons to play this. Valkyrian's extra drive checks and so on. Decay is soul charging as well if you want to meet Origin Deity's conditions. Then we've got 4 copies of Gleaming Lord Uranus. So this is just a way to get your marker. There is a problem with this card. If you ride Bakrooks, you are soul blasting 1 to search for Arcturus. So sometimes it can make the numbers funky, but then there are ways as well, like if you have Decay of Just Path in your hand, you can sort of make this more usable. So this is quite good to use whenever you have Soul, because this deck actually scales with force markers, especially with the current playstyle I'm going with, which I'll explain shortly. Then we've got 4 copies of Eos Anesis Dragon. So this is a perfect guard by discarding another Astral Poet or Deity. And furthermore to that, it can also search for Valkyrian for 1 counterblast and give you a force marker if you succeed in your search. So this is quite good as well. Again, you're scaling the game, you're adding more force markers to Vanguard, and there are benefits to adding more force markers. So this is also used for that. Plus, when you're calling this, it becomes a rest target for Origin Deity Uranus. So this card and Origin Deity Uranus have reasons to still want Astraeus and Uranus to be in the deck. It's kind of funny because people would say, oh, Eos Anesis would just push Astraeus Dragon out of the deck. Origin Deity Uranus would push other cards like Astraeus out of the deck. But that's not what's going on really. These cards, these new grade 3s that they've come up with, are encouraging you to still play the old ones alongside them. And then we've got 2 copies of Arcturus. So I actually played one of this last year in the Bushiroad Spring Fest online event, and I won every single game with this deck, except the semi-finals, where I went into grade 1, but I rode Decay of Just Path, and then I damage checked 1 card, just 1 card, and it was this, the 1 copy I was playing. Then I had Bakrux, which is the grade 1 that searches for this, in my hand. So in all the time I've been failing my G assist for multiple turns, I could have just ridden the grade 1 that I had gotten after my turn 1 and basically search for this. But because I damaged it the 1 copy, it didn't go too well, so it was insane. But this is also during a time when Heal Guardians didn't exist. So of course the deck was starting to fall off a bit with Heal Guardians. But there are changes that I've made that will help to improve its performance in an era where there's Heal Guardians. Almost said G Guardians there. Although they are kind of stronger than G Guardians in some cases. Here we've got 4 copies of Phenomenus of Constellation. So this has gone back in now. There was a time where people were mainly using Gleipnir. But Gleipnir, it's not really quite as useful as it used to be. Well, Gleipnir was never too great to begin with. I think the main play I liked to do with it was to just search for decay, especially because I was really just on a race to get my force markers, because I need to give 3 force 2s originally to the Vanguard, but then also use the Vanguard on ride to give force 2 to Valkyrian. But now I don't really go with that playstyle anymore, that clunky style, because there's less reason to. Heal Guardians, some of the defense group in the game as well. I think it's just safer to aim at for force 1. So Phenomenus is good as well for that, because, well, we're not using Gleipnir anymore. So if we're not using it for the decay play, then we freed up some room, because it's not really been that good outside of it. And this card gains more power than Gleipnir would normally. So there's more reason to play this, and it's an act main phase draw 1 every time. Like, you just need to have 3 markers on the field. And lastly, as I was going to mention earlier, we can scale force markers in stack. So because we're now maining force 1 even more, the Vanguard becomes massive pressure, Valkyrian becomes pressure. Obviously that everything deals base 1 damage, but then we're also playing this card, which can also become a heavy beater. So by using Gleaming Lord Uranus and Eosanasis Dragon to still add markers, you're basically making this card 5k extra stronger every time. If you have 2 copies, even better. So basically, you could do up to 5 powerful attacks in 1 turn, obviously if you're lucky and you open the hand. But even then, the other problem I have with Heal Guardians is that your opponent can easily guard against your Valkyrian swing just by having that, but then you lose your Valkyrian, so then you have to search for Valkyrian again, and sometimes your deck just bricks. I mean, it bricked in the finals. I couldn't even get Valkyrian off at all in that entire game. So yeah, the thing is Valkyrian, you do want it, but then what happens if you don't find Valkyrian? Well, you've at least got this guy who's somewhat of a beater. It's like meeting halfway, really. And then you've got the force markers on Vanguard, so you can still pressure your opponent to guarding instead of just doing cheap 15k 2 to pass whatever on your Vanguard. So this is kind of good to help you still somewhat play the game even when you don't have Valkyrian. It's like a contingency, but also it's overkill if you have the whole setup. Then you've got Bakrux or Stratification. So it's an on-ride that searches for the grade 2 Arcturus. Soul Blast 1 though, so you have to manage your soul carefully. Like this doesn't really make it any easier to use Gleaming Lord Uranus, nor does it make it easier to use Origin Deity of Heavenly Light Uranus. So there is that little weakness, but this is so good because it helps you ride consistently and get away with playing high Astral Poets. So absolutely a must play. And speaking of must plays, this card, the more you see this, the better your game is going to be. This gives you 3 force markers as long as you find 2 Astral Poets, and it's also soul charging card from your hand. So you put your grade 3s or your grade 5 Valkyrians if you have a bit of an abundance of Valkyrians. You can always put grade 5 Valkyrians to have a 1 card Soul Blast cost for Origin Deity of Heavenly Light Uranus. This card can also be used as a booster, which is nice as well. And it's fast, it's turn 1, so you can make your Vanguard very strong on turn 1. Then we play 4 Sentinel crits. You could mix up some draws. I kind of just did the crit Sentinels because I wanted to close games by drive checking them. Drive checking the draw just didn't really sit too comfortably with me. However, had I played draw PGs, maybe my finals game would have been a bit better because I went against Dauntless Dominant Reverse, and it was on the break ride and he high rolled, so I only had 3 turns of the game. And I found decent shield value, including this card, but I didn't see Eosanasis Dragon as my perfect guard, so I didn't really have a good time guarding, let's just say, against that combo. So you could potentially play draw PGs for that if you're worried about the opponent. I mean, I have EOS Analysis Dragon, which is supposed to be my insurance in case I need to PGs. But obviously, you don't always want to. Even if you have EOS Analysis in your hand, you don't always want to guard with it. But then at the same time, drive checking the draw PGs in your Valkyrian checks could just mean, oh, I haven't won the game now. Unless your opponent heals out, then in that case, you don't really lose out. But sometimes it does feel like this crit clinches you the game. Other times, not really. So I'm a bit conflicted really on whether or not you should go full crit. Like maybe you can play a few draws, maybe. I mean, that's something I might think about over the next week. So, but there is an argument to be made on both sides. And then we just play like 8 crits. And then to top it off, grade 3 heals. So yeah, it's got some good abilities to the early game. You can't search in this deck. It doesn't have grade 3 searches. But, you know, just hard drawing is fine anyway. And we've got other ways of defending. This card is a way to just obviously keep your Vanguard stronger. So if your opponent rushes you with weak attacks, then you can punish them for it. And the main important characteristic, though, that is more unique to this deck is the fact that you could add this into your soul with Decay of Just Path if you're desperate, or you could also search this off of Valkyrian and then get your 3 drives. So sometimes you get those really horrible check top 5s and you get many like triggers and grade 1s or maybe Phenomenus or something grade 2s. This is a way to get the 3 drives as well if you get a horrible top 5. So it's nice to have a grade 3 among the triggers just to make you feel less bad about it. So yeah, that's pretty much it for my deck profile. I will have to update my deck with these cards, the Origin Deity Rainuses, and I haven't gone around to that yet because I've been back since, well, I haven't really had any free time really until I've made this video. So this will be sorted. Hopefully I can play this at the event. And yeah, other than that, I think that's pretty much it for the deck profile. I will basically, I'll walk around maybe on a few things, maybe. If there's any updates, then I'll add to that. But yeah, I just wanted to give a bit of a thank you as well to Jey and Maxime for basically teaming up with me again for this time. We've won Cardiff before, back in the year before the pandemic, so that's 2019, and we just kind of teamed up again and just wanted to try out some Spring Fests this time round. It's kind of just good to be able to play Vanguard again in person, like rather than online. So there's just something really nice about the atmosphere of seeing people face to face, having all kinds of friendly conversations with players and so on. So I'm looking forward to more of Spring Fest. Anyway, until then, that's it for my deck profile. Take care, goodbye.